welcome and thank you for being here. I'll call this meeting to order on February 8th, 2022, and ask our city clerk to please call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Guess? Commissioner Henderson?
Present.
Commissioner Wilson?
Present.
Mayor Bray?
Present. Commissioner Henderson, would you lead us with the invocation, and then we'll remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Gracious God, our Father, again, we come into your presence, and we thank you for this day, and we thank you for every invitation that you give us to lay our heads on your heart. Father, we thank you for the privilege that you've given each of us to serve this Paducah community. And Father, we can ask that you will continue to bless us as commissioners, as a mayor, as a city manager, Lord God, that in the days ahead that we will always use wisdom and discernment in making the decisions that affect this city. Father, we pray that you'll bless the citizens of this city. We pray, oh God, that you will cover us and keep us. Hold us in the palm of your hands is our prayer in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager, are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Mayor, none this evening.
Okay, we'll start out. We've got a new employee introduction. Assistant City Manager Michelle Smolin.
Okay. Good evening, Board of Commissioners, City Manager, and City Clerk. I have the great privilege of introducing our new Grants Administrator, Hope Reasons. So Hope has a significant amount of experience in grants, primarily in the healthcare administration field, while she was working in the Jackson, Tennessee area. I can tell you we have already seen a lot of initiative, go get it, she's after it, she's proactive. So she's already been a great addition to the team. Most recently, she worked for the Merriman House as the Advocacy and Empowerment Coordinator. She is originally from Paducah and has a bachelor's degree from Murray State University, so I know we have some Murray State fans. She has an MBA from the University of Phoenix, and she also has one daughter, Catherine, who is attending the University of Kentucky. So we are thrilled to have Hope on our team.
Yeah. Welcome.
So thank you and welcome, Hope. One of the things I've learned since I've been here, there's a lot to do here with grants. And so we've been without a grant writer for, some matter of months. So no pressure, but we got to get going. But I like, I like the fact if you're a go-getter, this is an area that we need to go get. So, for the benefit of all of us, our citizens and City of Paducah. So welcome.
Thank you.
It's
I'm
great
really
to have you.
excited about serving the city, so thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have an update on the Robert Cherry Civic Center. As hopefully everyone knows, we're in the midst of a renovation, I guess is the way to say it, of the Robert Cherry Civic Center, and Amy Clark, along with Jeff Cantor, is going to be here to give us an update. So,
yes.
Amy, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, and City Clerk. Thank you so much. I'm just going to give us a brief history, and then Jeff is going to come in and kind of catch you up to where we are today. So about this time last year, we worked with PFGW to do a feasibility study. We were looking to see if there was opportunities to relocate the park's staff. Our current building on H.C. Mathis is in bad need of repair, and so we were just looking for potential opportunities. And we found one with the Civic Center. The Parks Department staffs 26 full-time employees. We are not looking to put all 26 people in the building. So I want to make sure that people know that we're trying to keep with the integrity of the space. We still want to use it for those public meetings, the workshops, the wedding receptions that we do now. And so that's kind of our goal as we move forward. And then late last summer, we approved a contract with PFGW to do the design for the renovation of the facility to include office spaces moving forward. So with that, I'm going to let Jeff kind of catch you up to where we are today.
Thank you, Amy.
All right, Mayor, Commissioners, City Manager, thank you for letting us be here. With me is Brian Atkins with Markham Engineering, mechanical engineer on the project. And so I know all those pressing mechanical and electrical questions that you have, he will be more than happy to answer because he knows vastly more than I do regarding that subject. So as Amy said, this project really started about 2 years ago with the parks, or with the facilities survey and assessment for the City of Paducah that Markham Engineering and PFGW completed. That identified the needs of a lot of buildings, 14 buildings in total that the city had, repairs that needed to be done over a 3 to 5 or a 6 to 10 year span. And so that is really where the project started. Our work on the Cherry Civic Center started in earnest with the feasibility study last year, and then with our design contract that was signed in the fall of 2021. We have, and I'll kind of catch you up to where we've been so far. We've had a project kickoff meeting. We went through using the feasibility study plan. We went through a schematic design phase where we massaged some of the plan features. Amy really zeroed in on the number of offices she needed and those program spaces that she needed in her administration space. That allowed us to tighten up the plan a little bit, and so we went through that process, and one of the things that we identified very early on in our kickoff meeting was the need to engage stakeholders. We understand the history of this building. For 70 years, this building has been a vital part of our community, and we don't want to do anything to make it to where it doesn't function for the community in the future. So Amy went back through her records of rentals and people who have used the facility. We identified stakeholders that we interviewed. We developed a list of questions, standard list of questions that we presented to all of these stakeholders. And so the pictures that you're going to see with this presentation are current state of the Civic Center. I know some of us have maybe not been in there recently, just as a reminder of what the condition of the facility is now. We interviewed 9 different groups over the span of 2 days, and plus another day or two for some email responses. 3 of those were corporate entities, corporations that use the Civic Center for anything from employee picnics and gatherings to blood drives in the community that are sponsored by the corporation. 2 caterers and event planners were interviewed who use the facility and see it from a different light than the corporations do, who have different different visions of what works, what doesn't work, what's needed. 3 community organizations and how they use the facility, what are the strengths and weaknesses and opportunities, and then 1 church who has used the facility in the past as well. This was important in our research, and we felt like we really needed this information because I don't use this facility. As I mentioned before, my prom was here when I was a senior at Tillman, but I didn't even go to it. I just went and decorated and went camping that night instead.
I don't remember you mentioning that.
It was a good move on my part. And so, I've been in a few things here, but we wanted to hear from the people that use it. We wanted to get, and honestly, through that process, through 2 days of meetings and even some email responses that came in the subsequent days, I have a greater appreciation of this building now than I did a month ago. I understand better its significance in the community. I understand the history of the building better than I did, because to me it was just a building on the corner of H.C. Mathis and Park Avenue, but to so many in our community it is so much more. Significant events have happened here, and we learned that, and I think that some of the key takeaways were, and we heard this from every group, it's affordable. 9 times of the 9 folks that we interviewed, in the 9 groups we interviewed, affordability was number 1 every time. We heard it every time. Location is important in the community. It's centrally located for a vast majority of folks. History, came up. We learned things about the history of this building, and I'm not going to share some of those tonight. You can ask me later. Some of them are quite fascinating, but there's history here. For 70 years, events have happened in this building: performances, family reunions, weddings, and so there's a history that is important. We heard concerns about the seating capacity. We heard, that if the seating area, if the assembly space is too small, it's unusable to most groups. And so we were getting that was one of our questions we asked was what's your average capacity that you have and the number of people that attend. And so that helped us understand how the building is used. We heard it was old and antiquated, which I'm sure may not surprise you. And it is. I mean, you look at the picture of the kitchen there on the bottom right, and that's the definition of old and antiquated. We heard that it needs updating, and we heard from the event folks that we spoke to that it's hard to make it look good. It's just, when they come in and are staging the space for an event, it's difficult to make it look good. And so those are some of the key takeaways that we had from the stakeholder engagement. So what that did, we had a meeting on January 28th, just a week and a half ago now. And so out of this, let me back up just a little bit. Some of the things that were discussed in the program that needed to be in this facility to make it function as an assembly space and as parks offices. For the event space, you got to have the big room. And so that was a key thing: the catering kitchen, restrooms, obviously, and table and chair storage. A pretty simple program for that space, not much different than it is today. Parks administration, they identified needing 5 offices, a lobby and reception area, a conference room, break room and restroom, and a work area, network printer, copier, some spaces where they can assemble literature to get out to the community about their programming, and then a storage space. And so this was the program that we were handed and challenged to make it work. Early on, this is plan option A, which necessarily tells you there is a B to be presented here in just a minute. Plan option A is a direct result of the feasibility study. This is not much different than that. The program space has been refined in the parks administration area. The number of offices, I think we had 8 in the feasibility study. We're down to 5 now, so we're able to refine this space a little bit further. But you can see the square footage that takes up. The total building square footage inside the walls is 9,377 square feet. In plan option A, the assembly space is 6,703 square feet, and that includes the catering kitchen, the restrooms, the table and chair storage area, just the seating room, just the big space in plan option A is 3,640 square feet. So about half of that is actual seating capacity space. Parks administration space you see is 2,100 square feet. And one of the things we learned, several of the stakeholders we talked to were very helpful in helping us understand how tables and chairs, how they use the space with tables and chairs. Rectangular tables versus round tables, chairs only, dance floor area. That's one thing that we didn't think about in the feasibility study and even through the schematic design phase. And so that was one thing we've kind of taken a step back and re-looked at how things are organized in there. You need to have a dance floor. You need to have a space for a small stage of some kind. The layout you see on the screen is showing rectangular tables, 8 seats per table, and that was one of the event planners that we spoke to. That was her recommendations, what she usually does, and so we have tried to follow that model, and she even offered to help be a resource for us and how we lay things out and all that in this event space. So seating capacity for plan option A with rectangular tables, we're looking at about 160 conservatively. That allows for a dance floor. That's what's shown on the screen here. For round tables, you're looking at about 128, and then for chairs only, obviously that's going to be a higher number, about 328. And these are all conservative numbers. And so, but then and this was the plan we had even before the stakeholder meetings. This is kind of where we were headed, knowing that the stakeholder meetings could change some of that. And it did, honestly. And so we developed, I'll show you the site plan real quick for plan option A. Really, not much is being done to the site at all. We'll have some lighting improvements on the outside of the building, some landscaping improvements. Some parking lot lighting will be upgraded, and new parking lot lighting will be installed. And so to just add some safety and security measures to the outside of the building and to make it look better at night. But a total number of parking spaces currently existing, as best I can tell from faded out lines on an aerial photograph, are 85 spaces with 4 accessible spaces. And that'll be important to understand here in just a moment. Plan option B was an exercise that I did on the evening after our first stakeholder meeting, when we were hearing things about capacity of the seating of the assembly area. And so I went back figuratively to the drawing board and developed this plan that adds a small addition on the back side of the building, 1,240 square feet. So small footprint. It would be keeping in scale with the restrooms and the kitchen, so it's not going to be as tall as the main part of the building. And then what that would allow us to do is to get about a 12-foot wide slice of office space out of that main space, about where the stage is currently, and then add the bulk of the administration space as an addition on the back side of the building, thereby preserving a lot of the existing assembly space. We knew doing this, cost would be added, and so we have done that exercise, and I'll show you that in a minute. But when you look at the numbers here, the assembly space now for the total assembly space for table, chair storage, kitchen, and all that is now 8,400 square feet. Parks administration is the same square footage, with the building addition taking up a little over half of that. And so now the building falls in at 10,600 square feet instead of the 9,300 square feet. And so seating capacity is where you see the biggest difference. Rectangular tables now can seat 224 very conservatively, 176 with round tables, and chairs only, we're approaching 500. And so this gets us really close, if not right where we were hearing the stakeholders tell us that we needed to be. With what they have experienced historically using the facility. With the building addition, of course, with it going on the north side there, you can see the blue square right there at the top of the building. That represents the building addition, and so we do have a loss of some parking spaces due to needing to drive around the building. We lose 13 spaces in this scenario, but we maintain the accessible parking spaces and shouldn't have to relocate any curb cuts or anything off of H.C. Mathis. So we're just essentially, covering over 13 parking space lines. So this is, of course, we did an opinion of cost for the feasibility study. It was based on some very entry-level information, conceptual plans, big picture, high-level view of things. And then as we've gone along through this process, now we're starting to look at things a little more finitely. We're starting to have more information about some of the systems that need replacement, digging into the building a little deeper. And so now we're starting to see these opinions of cost creep up a little bit. And of course, and keep in mind too, that the feasibility study opinion of cost was done in July of 2021, 8 months ago. And as we know, construction costs just keep going up. We were discussing it even before the meeting started. It is hard to do this now because we just don't know where things are going with any certainty. But you see the breakdown here. This is plan option A. This is renovation only. You're looking at a subtotal of, and the special systems there, I'll explain what that is. That is fire alarm system. The building code for the occupant load that we have requires a fire alarm system to be installed in the building, which it does not currently have. So we're adding a measure of safety to the building. Structural is going to be some concrete masonry unit repair and some brick veneer repair. And architectural is everything from construction of new offices to new floor finishes, new windows. We're looking at a total renovation of all aspects of the building, except for the roof. The roof was newly installed just a few years ago, so we're not touching the roof. But, we're mechanical. We're replacing everything, is what we're anticipating. Now, we may have to scale some of these things back and rethink some of the scope of work, but that's what we're planning for at this point, kind of a worst-case scenario. Electrical, going back to everything, all new wiring, everything, because it's, in some cases, 70 years old, and parts can't be found. We've added a number in there for escalation of just increased cost, increasing costs, and a contingency of 10% as well. Anytime you do renovation, especially on a building that's 70 years old, we need to have a contingency in there because you just don't know what you're going to run into. And so for plan option A, we're looking at about $1.6 million at this point. So to do the exercise, same thing on plan option B. Same thing, structural goes up because we're adding a building addition. Architectural goes up because we're adding roofing on that portion of the building. Plumbing goes up because we're anticipating maybe having to address some of the existing restrooms in a slightly different way. We're waiting on confirmation of that from the state plumbing inspector and hope to have an answer this week on that. So that number, I think in all likelihood, will come down some. Mechanical, slightly elevated because we're adding square footage. Electrical, same thing. Special systems, same thing. And so you see an increase there of about $250,000 to $300,000 to plan option B. But from everything we've heard from the stakeholders is that if the assembly space won't seat enough people, it won't be used. At least not in the way it has been in the past, and not by the groups that have used it in the past. And so that's just something that got us thinking along these lines. Project schedule, at this point, our next thing is option A or option B. Which way do we need to go? We're prepared to move in either direction. So awaiting that decision. We've got an IT, that's not an IT meeting, it's an IT meeting for electrical data, things like that with the engineers and with the city's crew. Finish selection meetings, we're, new ceilings, new flooring, new paint, everything. And so we'll have several meetings with the city, with the park staff to make those selections with our interior designer who's on staff. And then we'll have a couple of construction document review meetings leading up to construction, where we'll just sit down at the 50% and the 100% level and just review things and make sure everything's tight before we go to bid. And so schedule for that, we're looking at probably 10 to 12 weeks upon receiving an answer on option A or option B, 10 to 12 weeks for construction documents. Another 6 to 8 weeks for for bidding and contract approval, and then 12 to 16 months for construction. We hope. Materials are sometimes difficult to find. Roof insulation is becoming particularly challenging, and so we just know some of these things are might affect the construction schedule, but that's what we anticipate at this point. with that, I would be happy for Brian to entertain any questions. Or Amy.
And you're saying option 2 is more in line with what the stakeholders are suggesting that they need?
Everything we've heard, every stakeholder group,
Option B, rather.
option B would work better. Now, I will say this, nobody has seen option B until tonight, with the exception of our meeting on the January 28th. So we have not gone back to the stakeholders with option B to present that yet. They saw option A and expressed concern over seating capacity.
Jeff, the outside will also be updated and
Yes, yeah, the outside, like the limestone surfaces here we see at the front entrance, that'll be cleaned. We want to preserve as much of the look as we can. We are planning new windows around the perimeter of the building. Those are operable windows right now, and they're not insulated well, and so we're planning on new windows that are non-operable, greater thermal efficiency. But yeah, new lighting. So the building, it's dark there at night, and even when events are going on, it's sometimes hard to tell there's anything going on other than cars in the parking lot. And so we want to change the appearance of it and make it more secure, but also change the aesthetic.
Is there a way to get option B in line financially with option A? What will we have to do to get that price?
I think there's some things we can do. We can look at some of the selection of finishes that we may be leaning towards, floor finishes, things like that. We may have to scale back on some of the new windows around the perimeter of the building. We may have to sacrifice that for a later phase or not at all. But I think there's some things that we can start looking at, because really these numbers represent an all-in, let's get everything done now scenario. But I think there's certainly things we can begin to look at and examine where some trade-offs might be and what those trade-offs are.
Anyone else? Carol?
Well, my only question is, how are we going to pay for it?
I can't answer that.
I mean, I love it, and I love option B, and I think it's a great option, and I mean, I love it. I love everything about it. That was my question.
Yeah.
How are we going to pay for it?
There's a couple of pathways for the commission to consider from that aspect that whichever option you chose. We do have ARPA funding that has been made available that we had talked about. Some of that remaining of that $6.4 million, there's 2.4 that's unobligated that could cover that. But there's flexibility in that money now from the standpoint of what the feds have released out. So, the other option is that, and, we have some of the, it's kind of taking that off the table out of that funding source and moving it over to bond funding, and then some of the bond funding money that has, now that we have the flexibility in the ARPA, that you could transfer that project over that, which would do two things if you wanted to consider that. It would start spending that bond money, getting that motivated and engaged on the bond side, which we are up some not hard time constraints, but coming up on some constraints on that. So that's the aspect of that. The other side, or another option that you could consider, is that, as part of your facilities improvement plan, if you wanted to go in that way, it would be kind of borrowing against yourself and then paying it back. I think that, at first blush, that might not be the optimal way to go. I would think considering, the first two options would be, part of the conversation, and lean heavily to considering those as primary options.
Okay.
But we had talked about, at least since my short tenure of this project, and when we thought it was going to be, potentially around 1.2 of those two funding sources being the eligibility pots of money to spend the ARPA and then or the bond, and just reallocating, projects out of one source into the other. And again, with the Fed, the final ruling that came out on the funding for the ARPA, it does give us more flexibility to look at some of the projects that had been considered only available in the bond funding as an option and would not have been eligible under the ARPA, maybe moving some of that over into that and then this into the bond funding. So there's that would be the two primary recommendation sources for consideration.
Okay.
So you're looking at, if we gave you the go-ahead today, at least 2 years
21
from
months?
that time frame.
Yeah, approaching that, yes, ma'am.
And it's already been closed almost 2 years. I mean, I think we're sitting with a nice community asset closed that we need to do something with.
And I think, that would be hopefully a worst-case scenario. Hopefully the materials start flowing freely again. And so I was trying to be conservative, knowing what some of the things I know on some other projects. But, I think, without talking to Brian and Bacon Farmer Workman, our design team, we will do everything we can to expedite this through our design and construction document phase and get it out on the street to bid as quickly as possible. We'll expedite the bidding process as much as we can while still falling under procurement law and cities, meetings schedule, city commission meeting schedule. And the beauty of a lot of this is it's inside work. And so that can, we can get the work done that needs to be done outside during the good weather months, and during the bad weather months, we can be inside working. So it's, that helps us to some extent.
What would be our next step?
Well, we wanted to give you the overview of where we were for tonight. And first blush, weren't expecting you to make a decision tonight. Wanted to give you the information of where it was and to kind of think it over and kind of, talk about some feedback and some of the concerns and some of the options that exist within both options, so we can give some direction. One thing, though, Jeff, I would ask is if we chose to look at option B in the construction, would there be a pathway that we could do the renovations on the internal of the existing space prior to beginning the construction on the outside that might allow for the facility to get into quicker use before starting the construction on the back of it? Whereas if we were doing construction wholly renovation on the inside, we might not have that option?
Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to speak, but I just want you to shake your head yes or.
Yeah, I mean, the systems can be set up and designed such that the addition is separate from.
Yep.
So if we know that going in, we can make accommodations for that.
So that may not keep, if the commission thought about option B as and because of
Phased opening.
a phased open, that, because there is new construction, whereas, the potential might be that it might not take for usage, not optimal usage, yes, in that time frame, but the potential of possibly getting some community usage prior to the full project being completed.
Yeah, because our plan with either option is to build a wall from the floor to the bottom of the roof deck, separating the office space from the assembly space. And so we would be creating an entirely separate area that could be under construction at for a couple of months after the assembly space opens for public use. So I just wanted to make sure that mechanically and electrically that was something that we were in agreement upon. So.
Yeah. And then, well, and the other thing is as Commissioner Henderson were talking about some of the opportunities to look at pathways to reduce costs. And I think that part of that conversation needs to be what, if we did that with some of the windows or exterior furniture, all like that, what do we give up in energy efficiencies and future cost that for utilities? And one of the things of looking at new space from the building that we are is there's a huge utility cost going in, at the other space where we currently exist. So I would want us to be mindful that anything we might look at that as an opportunity to lower the ultimate price tag of that what we're giving up on that as well.
Yeah, let me say a couple things, because I've just been reflecting on all this. And so, number one, I want to take, some time to think about this a little bit. And the feedback that we got from the stakeholders, do we have any actual data, going back the last 5-10 years, on frequency of usage? I mean, is that something that's ever been shared, what we actually have?
It hasn't been, but we did poll that. I think we polled 2016 to 19 was before we closed it. And that's what we used, but all we have is based on their submission of what they anticipated. So like attendance could be anywhere from 200 to 300, but that's not necessarily a real number. But we did poll that to go into these stakeholder meetings to kind of figure out where we needed to be as far as capacity goes. So yes, we can get some of that information for you.
Yeah, I think if you'd share that with the commission, I think we need to take a look at that.
Sure. And that's why, that's kind of who we selected to call in, was based on the frequency of their reservations over the years. We wanted to make sure that we got people that use it regularly so that we could really gather their input.
No, I applaud, the stakeholder meetings, to get the feedback. I mean, there's only so much money. And so we need to make an informed decision, as best we can. So I just think we need to take all this into consideration and reflect on it for at least until the next meeting, so. Is there anything, part of this is what's going to be done to the parking lot?
Right now, and even through the feasibility study, the parking lot scope was new parking lot lighting. We were instructed not to include the parking lot, restriping or resealing or anything into our scope of work for the design. And so, but the thing we are doing is all of the existing lighting in the parking lot, which is the old, 7 or 8 wooden poles with a, big orange metal halide light on it that looks so attractive. We're going to take those down and put 2 much more efficient LED poles up that will give better light and look nicer. And then any future parking lot resurfacing or anything like that would just be outside of our scope of work. So.
What kind of shape is the pavement in? I mean,
it's rough. You could see the image that I used as the background for the site plan. That was, I had to draw the lines in on top of that, and that was taken, that was Paducah GIS website, December of 2020, I believe, was the latest imagery there. So, the stripes are not easily seen. You're guessing where to park, and the first couple of people there set the tone for the rest of the parking lot, as we kind of saw at the ML King March. It's kind of the Wild West out there sometimes. So.
Okay, that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Sorry.
With option B, how would we proceed if the stakeholders had more concerns about the plan?
As far as seating capacity,
That's the issue,
even in
seating
option
capacity,
B,
yes.
I don't know. Obviously, at that point, you would, option C, I guess, would be.
So I'm going to interject something here.
Okay, please do.
Because, we can't keep going from option A, B, C, D. This is, change is hard.
Yep.
And so, I think, we're going through an informed discussion about it, getting stakeholder feedback. And, but we did it for a reason, and that was to find some space for our parks folks, and it's not going to be exactly the same.
Right.
And so we're going to have to figure out how to, in my opinion, we're going to have to figure out how to work through that. And so I wouldn't be for an option C. Personally, just myself, I think we need to, work through these 2 options and figure out how to move forward,
And I think, Commissioner Henderson, the flexibility that we had, even in the floor plan here of option B, the whole center of the area there is just wide open. So there's obviously more space for tables. Tables could be rearranged in a different way. So I think we have some capacity here to increase the seating even with this arrangement. So I think we're in the ballpark, certainly with what we've heard in the stakeholder engagements. You know, we were hearing in the 200 to 300, 300 was the most we heard, I think, of anybody. And it was generally within that 200 to 250 range is the numbers we were hearing from the folks that used it. So I think we're certainly there. Because really the stage, you know, what we heard, the stage was not used by many groups. And the stage takes up the bulk of the area where you see that thin slice of offices. And so the usable floor area is nearly the same as what it is now. So.
Will you go back to the cost slide? Did that include all new furnishings?
No, it did not. It did not.
The furnishings, new tables, chairs, and all of that would be on
Right.
top of the 1.5?
Yeah, this does not include office furniture, tables and chairs for the assembly space and all of that.
We don't have an estimate on how much more that would add?
We
Do
don't.
we need those, Amy? I mean, I'm assuming it's been closed for 2 years. It's going to be 2 more years. We're not going to open it with old tables and chairs.
Well, what we're gonna do is do an inventory to see what needs to be replaced, and we'll replace that. So it may not all have to be replaced at once. I know the chairs definitely do, but some of the tables are still in pretty good shape. So we will replace what needs to be replaced, but we'll try to match what's there so that it's not crazy different. Although most people use tablecloths, so a lot of it gets covered anyway. But
That
yes,
probably
we're
wouldn't be a
thinking
super
about that.
big expense, would it?
You'd be surprised.
Yeah, we're
probably
thinking
would.
about that with operational funding over the next 2 years now that we know we have some time to think.
I guess just to lay it out there, you know, I mean, I wouldn't want to spend the extra $300,000 for one event a year. I mean, you know, so I just think we have to make sure that, you know, we understand the number of events and the number of people and the number of events that, you know, looking at in the past. But we'll, you know, take all this under consideration and try to make a good decision.
All right. Any other
Everybody good
questions?
for now?
Good.
Thank you very much.
All right, you're welcome. Glad to do
Appreciate it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Okay, I was just, before we get started with the regular agenda, the consent agenda, if you will, I thought I'd just take a couple minutes to talk about our commission priorities meeting this past weekend. Friday afternoon, we were able to meet in here, actually, with all of our directors, and got some input from them on all of their priorities, and were able to engage with them about things that are going on within their respective departments. It's always good, I think, to get together with the directors and meet with them, you know, face to face, and get that interaction. And because I've said previously, you know, they all do a great job, and it was a good chance to engage with them. Then on Saturday morning, we took that feedback, and also we asked all of the commissioners to look at the priorities from 2021 and focus on a couple of priorities that they wanted to make sure that we continued. And then look at everybody was asked to look at 2 new priorities they wanted to look at. So it was a great discussion. We actually ended up going an hour over with. I think you were pretty aggressive with that agenda. We started at 9 and we thought we were going to get done at noon, but we ended up being a little bit after 1. But so we had a really robust discussion about all that, and I think the community will be excited about some of our new priorities that are coming out, and plus just the fact that we're going to continue some priorities that are very important to us. So I know the staff is working on that. We're not ready to share that just yet with the community. Michelle's back there shaking her head, you know. You want to come over here and tell them? No, I'm just kidding. But in all seriousness, you know, I think we just want to make sure that before we go public with those priorities that we've got them drilled down with the amount of detail that everybody would want. So, but I thought it was a great exercise, and it's a very healthy exercise to make sure we take sort of an inventory of the things that we've been working on, and because I think one of our and I'm going to shut up here in a minute, but one of our big successes, I think, for 2021 was our focus on those priorities. And we all talked about some of the things that we wish we'd accomplished maybe a little greater, but we had the focus, and our staff had the focus, and I thought that was really healthy. And so onward and upward from here for 2022. So anybody else have any comments along those lines? Okay. All right, we'll move to the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are considered to be routine by the Board of Commissioners and will be enacted by one motion and one vote. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered separately. The city clerk will read the items recommended for approval. Would any commissioner like any of the items removed from the consent agenda for separate discussion? Okay, so I'll ask the city clerk to please read the items recommended for approval.
Approve minutes for the January 25th, 2022 Paducah Board of Commissioners meeting. Receive and file documents. Reappointment of Paul King and Jimmy Evans to the Building, Electrical, and Fire Code Appeals Board. Said term shall expire January 22nd, 2025. Personnel actions and municipal order amending the FY 2021 through 2022 position and pay schedule for the full-time employees of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. The municipal order adopting an amendment to the FY 2021 through 2022 pay grade schedule for the employees of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. A municipal order accepting the donation of real property located at 1938 Center Street from Jack Brewer to the City of Paducah and authorizing the mayor to execute the deed consideration certificate. A municipal order authorizing the mayor to execute a lease extension agreement between the City of Paducah and the W.C. Young Community Center for lease of property located at 505 South 8th Street.
So moved.
Second.
Call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. We have one resolution to be read and voted on tonight, so I'll ask the city clerk to please read it.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to adopt a resolution entitled, "A Resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Paducah, Kentucky relating to the issuance by the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority of revenue bonds to refinance, among other things, costs incurred by Baptist Healthcare System Incorporated in constructing and acquiring certain hospital facilities in the city."
So moved.
Second.
So do we have, hi, Mark.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. Did you want to give us a little overview of this?
Sure. Baptist Health finances its capital needs through the Kentucky Economic Development Finance Authority, which is the state's conduit bond issuing authority in Frankfort. And Baptist has a bond issue that was issued in 2009. That it was itself a financing of old costs. That bond issue has been bearing interest at the variable rate. I like to say it's been skipping along the bottom as far as interest rates go. You probably know we've had historically low interest rates for a long time. Now that inflation appears to be happening and interest rates are creeping up, Baptist wants to flip that debt into fixed rate debt while rates are still relatively low, and can basically finish out those financings for the rest of the terms that one last for all at a fixed rate. KEDFA, since it's a statewide issuer, these costs were not only spent in Paducah but for other communities within Kentucky. And so KEDFA has a statutory rule that says before it can issue bonds to benefit a borrower in any Kentucky location, it needs a resolution from each of those locations requesting the KEDFA act for the benefit of, in this case, Baptist. And that's just to make sure that you as a local community are aware of what's going on in Frankfort, and that the State Economic Board is acting for the benefit of a borrower in your community. So the resolution is not an agreement for the city to issue debt or to encumber the city's borrowing capacity in any way. It is limited solely to a request for the state to issue the bonds. It's not even, I wouldn't even say it's a sponsorship or endorsement. It is solely limited to just a request of the statutory requirement.
Do any other communities have to approve this? Is this all Paducah?
It's LaGrange, Lexington, Louisville, and Corbin are also doing all this. Hopefully, Corbin they have some, it's interesting. A lot of people are having COVID problems, so we're trying to work through some COVID issues with some of them, but hopefully they'll all happen this week or next.
Okay. Anybody have any questions? Okay, thanks very much, Mark. Mark is, just tell us all who you are. You're with, I don't want to mess it up, so tell us who you're with.
Sure. I'm bond counsel with Dinsmore and Scholl in Louisville, and I have the pleasure of working with the city on a regular basis for its borrowing needs for bonds. So I get to work with John and Lindsay and others on a regular basis, so it's always a pleasure to have an opportunity to say hello to the commission and see the people at the city. So I appreciate your time this evening and allowing me to discuss this resolution with you. And Baptist also is very grateful for your assistance. This is very important for Baptist as well.
Great, thank you very much, and we appreciate your support and assistance as well.
Thank you.
Okay, City Clerk, would you please call roll?
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Okay, we have one ordinance to adopt tonight that we've spoken about previously, and I'll ask the City Clerk to please read it.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners adopt an ordinance entitled, an ordinance providing for the closing of 284.77 feet of Polk Street and 620.95 feet of Otis Denning Drive, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents related to same. This ordinance is summarized as follows: that the City of Paducah does hereby authorize the closing of 284.77 feet of Polk Street and 620.95 feet of Otis Denning Drive, and authorizes, empowers, and directs the mayor to execute a quitclaim deed from the City of Paducah to the property owner in or abutting the public way to be closed.
So moved.
Second.
So I don't know if we need any discussion. This is the new buildings over beside the high school,
The
Head Start building. So any questions? We ready to take a vote? Okay. Please call roll.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye. Then we have, looks like 3 ordinances to introduce tonight, so I'll ask the City Clerk to read the first one, please.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance approving the sale and transfer of municipally owned surplus real property held for the benefit of Paducah Water located at 6071 Clinton Road, Paducah, McCracken County, Kentucky, and authorizing the execution of a deed of conveyance. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance declares the property located at 6071 Clinton Road, Paducah, Kentucky, to be surplus property as it relates to the operations of Paducah Water, and authorizes Paducah Water to dispose of the property by public auction. Further, the mayor of the City of Paducah, Kentucky is authorized to execute and deliver a deed to the property to the successful bidder and all other documentation necessary to effectuate the sale and transfer. All money shall be received by the city for the benefit of Paducah Water.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so we have Jason Peterson, the General Manager of Paducah Water. Welcome, Jason. Tell us about this.
This is the first of 2 ordinances that we're presenting this evening. This is a piece of property, about a half acre, along Clinton Road that used to contain an elevated storage tank. And that came into Paducah Water System through the former Massac water distribution system. And through some improvements, some system improvements, and some adjustments in operation, that tank did not function properly in our system, and it rendered itself useless to the point where it was actually hampering our operations. So about 2 or 3 years ago, Paducah Water actually removed the tank from service. It's physically been removed from the site, and there's no further use for the piece of property. Paducah Water's been mowing and maintaining the property in reasonable condition, and with COVID, we're just now getting around to the point where we're asking the Commission's approval to liquidate and sell the piece of property for no further use for Paducah Water.
So you're just, we don't have a buyer necessarily, you just want the authorization to sell it.
Yes, and this ordinance would do three things. The first would be declare it surplus, which our board, Paducah Water's board has already declared it surplus. Two, to authorize its sale. And third, authorize the mayor to execute the deed of conveyance.
Okay? Questions? Okay, then I'd ask the city clerk to please read the second ordinance.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance approving the sale and transfer of municipally owned surplus real property held for the benefit of Paducah Water located at 158 Lovelessville Florence Station Road, Paducah, McCracken County, Kentucky, and authorizing the execution of a deed of conveyance. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance declares the property located at 158 Lovelessville Florence Station Road, Paducah, Kentucky, to be surplus property as it relates to the operations of Paducah Water, and authorizes Paducah Water to dispose of the property by public auction. Further, the mayor of the City of Paducah, Kentucky is authorized to execute and deliver a deed to the property to the successful bidder, and all other documentation necessary to effectuate the sale and transfer. All monies shall be received by the city for the benefit of Paducah Water.
So move.
Second.
This is the exact same circumstance, different piece of property, half acre, different location. This tank formerly was in the St. John's community, but the exact same circumstance.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Jason, for being here.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, and we have one more ordinance to introduce tonight. I ask the city clerk to read that one.
A proposed motion that the Board of Commissioners introduce an ordinance entitled, an ordinance amending Chapter 2, Article 5, Department Sections 2-211, Establishment of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Paducah, Kentucky. This ordinance is summarized as follows. This ordinance is being amended to rename the Information Technology Department as the Technology Department.
So moved.
Second.
You're up.
Mayor and Commission, this is to bring us in alignment as we revision the department from being more broadly focused to today's society and today's needs to our internal and external stakeholders of not just being information technology, but truly a technology department. And this also coincides with the creation of a Chief Technology Director position, which we are currently advertising for. And this just brings our ordinance in alignment because of the name change of the department from Information Technology Department to Technology Department.
Questions? Good? Okay, we'll move to a discussion item. And just as a reminder, we get updates, public updates from all of our department heads from time to time to provide the commission as well as our citizens and those who are here and those who watch, updates on what's going on with all of our departments. And tonight, we have our city clerk who is responsible for our customer experience department. So Lindsay, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioner, City Manager, for letting me present and give a bit of an overview of what we've been doing up to this point over the last year or so, what we're doing right now, and what we're looking to do in the coming year. So touched a little bit on some of this during our commission priorities meetings, but I've got a lot more information to share tonight. So I'll get started with a look back at some highlights from the last year. Between 2021 and 2022, the end of January of this year, we hosted 18 Kickstart meetings. We had, those are mainly for major subdivisions, downtown projects, things in our historic district, commercial developments. We host these meetings every other week. They're available to anyone who's doing a project in Paducah. It's like a pre-application process, and we have department members from our planning department, from our fire prevention division, from our engineering department. I am there many times to provide information if the business is looking to sell alcohol. So some of our success stories that we've had in the last couple of years and some of the ongoing projects that started with a Kickstart meeting with the city are Broussard's Atomic City the Kroger Fuel Center that went in on Park Avenue, the W on Broadway condo units, Old Fashioned Cigar Bar, Jeton Schoolhouse Apartments, Kaleo Technologies, and Blockware Mining. And this is really just a kickoff opportunity for them to meet with staff, get an idea of what they need to do to make their project successful. So we're happy to report that we've had 18 in this last year, and looking for a lot of those. When they start, we'll see a lot of those successes come to fruition over the next year. Something else that we implemented in 2020 was we put out a Scope My Project empowered by Open Counter. And this is an online tool. We have two portals. There's a business portal and a zoning portal where people can go online, and if they are thinking of starting a business, they can answer a few questions, select where they want to put it on the map, see if it's zoned appropriately, answer different questions about what type of business they are, and it will give them information on what types of permits they will need. And they can ask questions and get in contact with staff members if they have any additional questions. So from January to December, we had 730 potential business projects scoped in this software. People will start that, see, okay, that's what it might look like if I started my business in this part of town, and here's what it could look like if I did it over here. So 730 scoping projects were done. The software tells us that it estimates about 157 staff hours were saved, and 493 questions answered. So we saved some staff time that way. And then we had people look up zoning information 225 times in the software. Another big highlight from the last year is Claudia Meeks received her designation as a certified Kentucky Municipal Clerk. That takes 3 years of training to complete, and she completed that in July, and we are very proud to say that we now have 2 certified municipal clerks in the office. And just on a personal note, the office would not run without Claudia.
This is very true.
Last month in January, we hosted our first ever boards and commissions training. We had every city board or commission was represented at the training. We invited about 2 members of each board. That's the chairperson, legal representation, maybe their secretary, and then some staff support to come and learn about open records, open meetings, how to run an effective meetings for board chairs, and how to do inclusive recruiting to their board. The training was put on by Morgan Patterson. She's the Director of Municipal Law with KLC, and we were really pleased with how that went. We got really good feedback. We also had a video made of that training so that as new people come onto boards, we can share that with them, and they can learn from that. Just some other quick highlights. CX helped with scheduling over 4,000 vaccine appointments, COVID-19 vaccine appointments, helping the health district with that. We partnered with the West Kentucky Workforce Board and other community partners, including WPSD and many partners, to put on the 2021 Paducah Job Fair, where 435 job seekers came out. And we're able to see City of Paducah front and center. That's a picture of our team out there. We assisted 7,132 walk-in visitors to City Hall and assisted with 34 city commission meetings. So I'm going to move on to what's happening now and tell you a little bit about what we're getting up and running at the moment. Back in 2020, the City Clerk's Office received a Kentucky Department for Libraries and Archives grant. And we used that funding to put out to bid for digitization of all of our ordinances, municipal orders, and minutes for all of City of Paducah history. So all those books that you see Claudia standing in front of there, all of them, from the vast majority of those were only available in those hard copies. And some of those books are old and a bit brittle. So we wanted to make sure that we preserved those records. So we had them all digitized, and that project completed last year. During the last budget cycle, I asked for some budget in order to be able to make these records available online to the public. And you all granted that, and so I'm really excited to show you that is live at citydocs.paducahky.gov. And you can link here from the city website, but you can search web link. If I put in a term, if I wanted to see everything from the Joint Sewer Agency, it would bring up everywhere that there is a hit where the Joint Sewer Agency is mentioned for all of city history. Or I can go to Browse, City Clerk, and we have lots of things here, but I'll take a look at the minutes. And the minutes go back to the 1800s. So if I just wanted to pull something from the 70s, I can word search anything, but I can go to 1973 and find the minutes from that meeting now online in word searchable format. So this has taken a lot of work and time and effort, but we're really proud to say that this is now available online.
Do we continue to save the hard copies even after we?
Yes, so the minutes are a record that we always have to retain a hard copy of. But we are able to use this. We don't have a storage limit on this, so we're starting to branch out into other records that we can keep, like other board minutes that we can host and keep on here. So not every document on here would be a permanent retention document or something we'd have to keep in hard copy.
Gotcha.
The next thing I wanted to talk really quickly about is the My Civic 311 app and the online 311 portal. We went live with this last week, so we're brand new, but this is an opportunity for the public if they want to enter a service request, if they see a pothole that they want to report, or they need a brush pickup. They can go and they can download the My Civic 311 app, or they can use our online portal to report that. So I'm going to show you just really quickly a look at the portal. You all can download the app. If you go to the city's website to the online services page, there's instructions on how to download the app, how to use the portal. But just really quickly, I'm going to just pull up the portal so you all can see it. This is what the citizens will see online if they come here. And if they can sign in, we really recommend that they sign in or sign up for an account. That helps us be able to send follow-up information to them if they tell us their contact information. But they can make a new request. And you'll see a map populates here of the city of Paducah. They can select what type of request, if they want to do a brush pickup. They can type in their address. I'm going to use City Hall. You can put in a description. You can put in, for each request type, you can put in information that's required here, like I need loose debris picked up and how many bags of leaves. You can add an image, and then you can put in your contact information and you can submit. So it's pretty self-explanatory, pretty easily used. So far, we've had 40 people register, and that's pretty good. We launched last Wednesday, so we're looking to actually get some more advertising out and get more people signed up. That's going to be a big goal this year. The other thing that's happening now is in 2020 is when we received the NEA grant, the National Endowment for the Arts grant. And that we have used as we've started the Creative and Cultural Council. We've brought them into that. And one thing that came to the forefront was in order for them to promote the arts, they need to know who they are. And so we wanted to start by creating an online place where we could host a creative directory of our local artists, visual artists, performing arts, architecture and design, any kind of creative industry. So that has just gone live at paducaharts.org. And you'll see some more information come out this week, a call to creatives to sign up. I'll show you really quickly a little bit of what it looks like. I've been really, really pleased. We worked with Socially Present for the design, and I have to say that they did a great job, and I have to also give a lot of credit to Melanie Reason, who has been hugely impactful in this. I did some of the project management piece of it, but she was the creative visionary. Her and Shan Stamper on the Creative and Cultural Council just brought a great amount. So that we've got a homepage where you can kind of explore the directory and information, your About page that you can learn about the board members. We can see statements from our mayors, from Mayor Paxton to Mayor Kaler to Mayor Harless to you, Mayor Bray, quotes about how important the arts have been to the community over the years. We can look at the Creative and Cultural Council's mission and their role. There's information, there's resources for local creatives, and also information about past projects that we are, information about our UNESCO Creative City, and our local Paducah arts organizations. Finally, the last thing I'll just show you really quickly is the creative directory. We've had a few local creatives sign up so far, and I'll just show you just one kind of at random really quickly. You'll see that Jason Bailey, we have information about the artist, information about the work, examples of the work that he does, and then contact information and what opportunities he's looking for. So we're really hoping that this is a way to promote our local artists and promote our local arts organizations.
How many artists we have signed up so far, do you know?
We have, I think, we did like some individual, like reaching out, hey, would you like to be part of the first? I think we have 15 right now on the site. And this week we will have a news release going out. We will have information going out on local news media. We'll have information going out on billboards, and also at our Maiden Alley information. We have business cards being printed for the Creative and Cultural Council to hand out, and rack cards to go in local businesses.
Wonder how many artists we think we have in the community? 50, 100?
I would say closer to 100. When you think about both art guilds and the people that, there's a lot of creativity in this community.
Oh, my gosh.
And then, when you think about all different forms of art.
Yeah, I think it's really,
Substantially more, I think, than people
Right.
realize. Yes, substantially more than 100 probably.
Yeah.
I just think it's really important that we get everybody, as many people as possible to utilize this. This is kind of our showcase, really. I mean, we say we're an arts and creative and cultural community, if I'm saying that right, but, we need to get everybody signed up and up there. And one of them happens to be my sister, so I'm going to strong arm her.
And I'll just say that we have categories here for film, photography, literary arts, visual arts, performing arts, so, architecture and design, all of that.
I would say 1,000. Probably that would classify themselves as an artist in the community, at least. Yeah. They may not be.
Well, when you start taking in consideration all those art forms,
yeah.
I don't think it would take long to reach that number by any stretch. We're very fortunate.
Amen.
So that's what's happening now. What's coming next? Recodification 2023. We have to do this once every 5 years. This is not nearly as fun, but we have to look at our code book and, and make sure that it aligns with federal and state updates and legislative changes. So we'll be looking at a goal date of June 2023 for this. Special event permitting, updates to the ordinance policy application process, goal to make that easier and more efficient. Hopefully, we'll have something out to the commission to kind of take a look at within the next couple weeks, and hopefully get something completed for the spring events this year. And then Citizens Academy, Michelle Smolin, our Assistant City Manager, has done a great job of this in the years past. This is going to transition over to Alex and I, and we are looking at hosting this again this summer. And we had to cancel the last couple of years due to COVID, of course, but we're looking forward to re-energizing and getting this going again. It's been hugely popular for many years, so.
And you know, and staff's had conversation about moving it to the summer because hopefully, and as you notice up there, that we'll be able to, the high school and college age students be able to participate by having it in the summer as well.
And with that, I'll answer any questions or any thoughts.
Commissioners?
Great job, thank you.
Yeah, so a couple of things, just some notes I made, kind of a takeaway from the retreat also, you know, so these Kickstart meetings that we've been so successful with the people who have used them, there's a lot of people that didn't use them. And so, I mean, I think, you know, kind of my message here a little bit is, you know, we as commissioners, you know, we need to encourage people because, you know, a lot of times, you know, we'll hear about developers. I mean, I'm sure, hear about projects. I mean, I hear about projects, and we all may forget, but those Kickstart meetings really make a difference with people in getting up and going, you know. So I got great feedback on the board training. You know, several people reached out to me and said it was extremely helpful because we have a lot of boards. 30?
34.
34. So you may, if you stop and think about that, all these boards out there operating that, you know, I make appointments to, or Judge and I make joint appointments, or, you know, they're joint, and they're out there operating, and you know, so we try to keep track of what's going on, and they just, you know, they turn over. Board members turn over all the time. And so they come into the environment of what's an open meeting? You know, what does that mean? You mean anything that I say is, you know, is public access? And so they just, I know, you know, my time on the airport board, you know, we went through an annual training, but a lot of the boards, you know, don't really understand that. So I think this is really good to give people an idea what's going on and what to expect. The My Civic app, I was actually at a party, kind of a housewarming party, 2 or 3 this past weekend. And somebody came up to me like they do, you know, and said, it wasn't a pothole, it said, you know, people come by out here speeding all the time. You know, there needs to be 3 speed bumps, you know, and so I whipped out my iPhone and, you know, showed them how to download the app and said, here's exactly where you go, you know, to get that feedback, you know, and to provide that feedback. So I say all that just to say, I hope everybody's got the app downloaded, and I hope that, you know, when somebody comes to you, you can whip out your iPhone and show them this app and show them how it actually works. So that means you got to use it yourself, you know. But I mean, it does take, just like any app, it takes a little bit getting used to, but it's pretty slick.
It's very slick, and I had a tutorial from the city manager because I had a complaint, and he said, well, just whip that out. Let's just do it right here. But I had, you know, I mean, we were able to do it. We were able to upload a photograph. I mean, it was really helpful. I mean, from being able to, you don't have to make yourself a note. You don't have to worry about, I mean, boom, it's there, it's done.
Yeah, for sure. So, and then the last thing, I've already said something about the creative directory, but I just want to express on behalf of the commission our thanks to Melanie and Shand for all the hard work that they put into this website, and so I mean it's fantastic. So we just need to all of us just need to encourage the artists to make sure that they get us their information. And that's all I got. So from here, thank you, Lindsay. Great job. Appreciate it very much. So I'm just going to mention one thing. This is, I guess, off topic a little bit, but we've talked about having external commission meetings this year. So, maybe we can talk about that at the next commission meeting, but maybe we could pick a date, and a time or a date and a locale. Because I think we're kind of committed to doing that this year, so it'd be great to. Okay.
I was just checking with Michelle, make sure she wrote that down for us.
I'm on tape, so, you can play it back if you. Comments from City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple. Last night I had the honor and pleasure to represent the commission at the recognition of the award ceremony with the police department. Chief, appreciate the invitation. Enjoyed our time there, and to hearing all the great things that are happening in the department. And if you hadn't had a chance to read through the release that came out, please do, because not only of our sworn officers, but also our civilian members and team members in that department, and also citizens that were recognized last night. So it was, it was very heartwarming for me to participate in that, and I appreciate that invitation. Also, last week, hopefully this will be the last ICE event of the year, but I do want to recognize all of the public safety officials, team members that were out in that bad weather, managing that aspect, and Chris Yarber and his crew that rolled for about 24 hours straight, took a time off, and then came back in for another 24 to work on that. The hard part about ICE events, and especially like the one we had, would have started with rain first and then freeze rain. That limits our responsibility, or the ability to respond in normal ways. Typically we would start out and start pre-treatment with a brine or a salt mix. If we had laid that down, it would not have done anything except wash away with the rain. So that kind of limited that. But we do want to recognize that the public was gracious enough to heed the warnings, the governor's state of emergency, by staying in as much as possible. And we're appreciative of that because it did allow our public safety officials and our public works crews and the teams that were out trying to work through that event an easier time. And I think it helped reduce the number of accidents. So did want to recognize the efforts on that. And then, go back to one thing to the clerk's discussion. In there, one slide you saw where Claudia received her certification, and Lindsay rightfully pointed out that gives us 2 certified clerks, and that's no small feat. That's a lot of time and energy and effort to making that achievement, but I'm going to challenge them to take the next step and to continue that progression to become internationally certified through the International Clerks Association and continue on that. And that'd be so neat for us to have both of you to get to that point, so we want to support that. So, good work. Thank you.
God, we don't want to move somewhere. Get internationally certified. That sounds like they might be pretty mobile. So, okay, yeah, I got, just to follow up on the ice and snow event, I got 2 or 3 emails from people, not totally happy, with the streets, and so, I responded. People really didn't understand the breadth, of the event and really what was involved in it, and but I think we did a great job, and it was, even this morning, when I went out to the car, there was a solid sheet of ice, in my driveway. Because it's just, the temperatures today's really the first day. The temperatures have gotten up, so. Okay, any comments from commissioners? God, Okay. Do we have comments from the audience? Do we have a comment from the audience? Please. Yes, ma'am, please.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Do you need this paper from me?
If I could, that would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Ms. Welch, right?
Yes, Mrs. Welch. How's everybody today?
Great, thank you.
So good evening, city leaders and Mayor Bray, of course. Thank you for the opportunity to present my claim as far as the diversity here in the city of Paducah. I am from Southeast Missouri. I graduated from the University of Southeast Missouri State. I have been here for a total of 10 months. I have applied for 5 different positions as an entry-level leader here for the city of Paducah. I have not gotten a call back. Well, I did get a call back from probation and parole, and I am scheduled to interview with them tomorrow. What I would like to see from the city on a go forward, when I go to my portal and I see the jobs that I have applied for, they say that they're in review. Well, actually, the jobs have closed. So that's an issue. Being that, you come here to a new city, it's a great city, no doubt, but when you don't have employment, of course, and you have a family like I do, it causes a hindrance. And not only that, I went to school for so long to be able to work in these leadership positions. And what I would like to see on a go forward is a higher Spanish population that can help ones when they go to do business things like the DMV or the Career Center. And also a speedier process, maybe even a callback from those leaders that you were mentioning saying, hey, this has posted or it's been closed. You can go and you can feel free to, look elsewhere or whatnot, so a person isn't just hanging in the balance. So that's what I've noticed about I wouldn't say the lack of diversity, but just to streamline things and close it a little bit better. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mrs. Welch, and we'll take your comments under advisement. Thank you so much. Okay, from here we have an executive session, and I'll ask the city clerk to please read that.
A proposed motion of the Board of Commissioners to go into closed session for discussion of matters pertaining to the following topics: issues which might lead to the appointment, dismissal, or disciplining of an employee as permitted by KRS 61.8101F, and a specific proposal by a business entity where public discussion of the subject matter would jeopardize the location, retention, expansion, or upgrading of a business entity as permitted by KRS 61.8101G.
So move.
Second.
Call roll, please.
Commissioner Galt?
Aye.
Commissioner Henderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Aye.
Mayor Bray?
Aye.